Good morning, everybody. We're going to have a very special guest in just a moment, but first we're going to talk about, for a few minutes, a really important milestone that we have reached in this city. We're fighting COVID every day. We're fighting the Delta variant. The people of this city are responding. The people of this city are coming forward, getting vaccinated, making a difference. And as of today, 75% of the adults in New York City have received at least one dose of the vaccine. This is a big, big deal. When you talk to our healthcare leaders, this is the kind of number they've been wanting to see. 75% of all adults, at least one dose, growing all the time. That's incredibly good news. Here's another milestone. Over 80,000 New Yorkers have now received the $100 incentive. This is working. This is important to people. And you heard Dr. Ted Long the other day talk about a whole family that said, hey, we want to get that incentive for the whole family. Lots of people need to be vaccinated. He said, we'll even send someone to your home to do it. This $100 incentive has made a difference. In fact, so much so that President Biden endorsed it and suggested it for other parts of the country as well. So the vaccination effort is moving, thanks to New Yorkers who are stepping forward. Also, thanks to our vaccinators. Let's recognize these are heroes. These are folks who are doing amazingly good work. The folks going door to door, folks going out in the communities, the folks giving the vaccinations. This is making a huge, huge difference. Now, if you're not yet vaccinated, listen, this is the best time ever. And I understand there are a lot of people who originally, they wanted to wait a while, they wanted more information. I respect that. The people still have questions. We want to connect you to a doctor or a pediatrician for your child to get you the answers you need. We're happy to work with anyone. You want a vaccination in your home, we'll do that for you. So we really want to meet people where they are, respond to their concerns. But I want to emphasize, this is the best time ever because there's a $100 incentive, because the vaccination is easier than ever, because you can get it so many places, because it's fast and effective, it's simple to do, and because we got a new threat from the Delta variant. And it's not like what we saw in the beginning. This is a tougher challenge, but it's one we can fight back with vaccination. So to date in New York City, 10,394,533 doses, unbelievable, and growing all the time. Now, specifically, we're focused on the back to school effort. We're focused on our young people who are vaccine eligible, 12 years old and up, and reaching out to them, reaching out to their parents, saying, just like you get ready for going back to school so many other ways, going back to school this year means vax to school, get ready, get vaccinated. And we're seeing really good signs of progress. 12 to 17-year-olds, that group of New Yorkers has the fastest growth rate of vaccination of any age group in New York City. So more and more young people coming forward. 56% of 12 to 17-year-olds in New York City have already received one dose, and that is ahead of national average. National average is only 48%. So what we're seeing is something's happening here. Almost 300,000 kids in that range have gotten the vaccination. It's making a big difference, and we've got almost a month until school begins. We're going to use every single hour to get more and more kids vaccinated. Now, we have a special opportunity that we're announcing today for PTAs that do so much good. I want to thank all the members of PTAs involved in their schools, all the good you do. We are reaching out as of today to PTAs all over New York City, letting them know they can be part of our referral bonus program. Whenever a PTA gets a student or a family member to come in and get vaccinated, we will give them $100 for everyone they bring in. So think of the virtuous circle here. People get vaccinated, the individuals get $100, the PTA gets $100 for each person they bring in and they recruit to get vaccinated. And I can tell you, I've been involved with PTAs. My kids were public school kids. A lot of PTAs are going to like this because they need those resources. This is a great way to get it. We are letting every PTA know, sign up now, get people vaccinated, and have an opportunity to do a lot of good for your school community. We have been reaching out all over the city and talking to leaders who really understand how to reach the grassroots and make an impact. And someone who I really admire, she's an elected official, and she is a nurse by training. And when COVID hit, she went out and did that work. Even though she could have said, hey, I'm an elected official, you know, I got other things to do, she went out and did that work. And later introduced the HERO Act to protect all the people who were our heroes who protected us to make sure they were protected as well. I really admire her for the work she has been doing. And I want you to hear from her how important it is to do these grassroots vaccination efforts, to reach our young people, to reach our PTAs, all of this, what it means. My pleasure to bring to you Assemblymember Karines Reyes.
Thank you so much, Mayor de Blasio, for having me here with you today this morning and talking about your efforts. I congratulate you on your efforts. I think those numbers are amazing in the city of New York. And, you know, vaccinations have historically been effective. I actually, in preparation for this call this morning, I was refreshing my history on vaccinations. And back to the 9th century, there have been documentation of smallpox and the production of the smallpox vaccine and how it was mandated in the 1950s and we were able to eradicate it then. I think there's a lot of hesitancy in folks about vaccines because there's a lot of misinformation out there. But the reality is that for centuries, we have been inoculating people through vaccinations or other means before vaccinations were developed, and they have been effective. They have increased life expectancy, not just for adults, but particularly for children. And we have an opportunity right now to make history. With the pandemic, we have seen a disease that we hadn't had to contest with before. And here we are. And now we have a vaccine that has proven to be effective. And we want to make sure that everybody gets it. I am a believer in personal choice, but I don't think that your personal choice should endanger the lives of others. And as we look forward to opening schools and people getting back to work, the best way to protect ourselves is to make sure that if we're eligible, we get vaccinated, and we will continue to implement those measures that have proven to be effective, not just against COVID, but against all kinds of rhinoviruses and other kinds of colds, as we've seen a decrease in that as well. And that has been hand washing, mask wearing, and continuing to social distance when appropriate. But ultimately, vaccines have been so important. The moment that the CDC approved vaccines for younger children, I got my 14-year-old vaccinated. And as soon as I can get my 11-year-old vaccinated, I will, because it is the easiest way and the most effective way that I can protect them. And we did a lot of work with the HERO Act, making sure that employers would create a plan for airborne infectious diseases, because we've never seen something like this in the past. And we have all kinds of measures in place for workplaces to protect employees. But we don't have anything for airborne infectious diseases. And moving forward, we believe that employers should have a plan. If this is not going to be the first, second, third wave, this may not be the first airborne infectious disease that we're contending with moving forward. And we want to make sure that employers have a plan on how to protect not just their employees, but the population that they serve, the communities that they're in, and the public as a whole. And if we want to make sure not just to keep our economies open and thriving, keep our kids in school, keep people healthy and save lives, we have to have a plan in place. And that's what the HERO Act was all about.
Well, listen, Assemblymember, amazing work you've done, really amazing work. And thank you. You have a really clear, strong voice on this issue, and the people of your district, the people in New York City need to hear it, because there's still hundreds of thousands of people out there who actually are open to being vaccinated, but we just got to get them in and let them know how easy it is, how positive it is. Thank you for being that strong voice. Thank you for the HERO Act. Thank you for being out there on the front line when it was tough and we needed help. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, everybody. So we keep making progress. And I keep saying, everyone, vaccination equals recovery. Vaccination equals freedom. The more and more people get vaccinated, 75% of New York City adults, that means we get to do things again, we get to be together, we get to move forward, we get to recover. And we are celebrating our recovery. We're celebrating our progress. Homecoming week has been amazing already. Stunning concerts already. More to come tonight, Brooklyn Army Terminal. And let me tell you, amazing talent from Brooklyn performing. You heard yesterday from Big Daddy Kane. This is going to be a very exciting show tonight. Friday, we're going to talk about in a second in Queens. Saturday, Central Park, Great Lawn, unbelievable lineup put together by the legendary Clive Davis. So So much happening to celebrate the city and help us move forward. All concerts are people who are vaccinated only, and that's the message. You want to fully participate, you want to get all the joy out of life, just go get vaccinated. And the world opens up to you. So Friday, Queens. Amazing lineup, but one star that shines in a particular way that I have to speak about. We are saluting one of the most important musical figures of our time. I'm going to introduce him in a moment, but I just have to speak personally first. The first time I heard One Nation Under a Groove, just literally one of those life-changing songs. It was everywhere in my high school. We felt it. It was a message of unity and hope, but it was also a new kind of sound, and everyone sensed something in the air, something special, something amazing, a real innovator, a genius at bringing out something new. And if you love music, and I love music, you got to recognize the people who made a lot of other things possible. So, you know, I love lots of groups, I love lots of musicians. I hope they feel the debt of gratitude that I feel to George Clinton for what he did for all of us. If you love Outkast, well, thank George Clinton. If you love Talking Heads, thank George Clinton. If you love Janelle Monáe, thank George Clinton. All of them. Great, great, great artists, did their own thing too, but if you think that they were not fundamentally influenced by George Clinton, I'll play you the tracks to prove it. Because George Clinton and everyone around him changed American music profoundly and for the better, opened up a world of possibilities and brought people together. I don't have words, but for me personally and for my family, an amazing moment to have a true legend with us. He is called the Prime Minister of Funk for good reason. He is one of the great musical innovators of our time. There's almost, you literally can talk about it all day long. No one has influenced modern music more and had a bigger impact, and he is headlining the Queen's concert and helping to bring back New York City. Ladies and gentlemen, from the bottom of my heart, a tremendous honor to have you at City Hall, George Clinton.
Wow. Thank you, Your Honor. Wow, I don't even know what to say after that. I need you for my publicist.
I'm ready. I need a job.
Wow. It's really good to be in New York City. This is something, I've been coming to New York since 1957, 58, going to the Apollo Theater, looking at the people on the wall. I had a singing group called Parliament, looking at those pictures and wanting to be on that wall with those people. And eventually we did that in 67, but I want to testify. But between 1957, coming over here, listening to Murray the K, the Swinging Soiree, WBLS, WWRL, and wanting to be a part of that New York scene, I wrote songs at Gilbert Music, which was out of Detroit, Motown. And I used to come to 1619 Broadway, the Brill Building. They call it Tin Pan Alley. And dreaming all the time that I wanted to be a part of whatever that music scene was in New York. So when we actually got Mothership Connection and became big stars, we literally, without a permit, landed the Mothership at 5 o'clock in the morning with a whole crew, 13 cameras, right in Times Square. 5 o'clock in the morning. While we were doing it, nobody knew it. This was like 1977, 78. Nobody knew him like I did, but it was Murray the K. We filming this thing, 5 o'clock in the morning, and the spaceship come down, and I walks out, and Murray the K steps out of the crowd, says, "Welcome to planet Earth, Dr. Funkenstein. I am the fifth Beatle from the Swinging Soiree," and nobody knew him but me. One of the roadies grabbed him by the ear and was dragging him off, and I'm on the spaceship. Ho, leave him alone. That's Murray the K, the biggest DJ in New York. Used to be. And the next day we rode through Central Park and some of the cars and talked about the history. But that film is still around here somewhere. We can't find it, but it'll show up pretty soon now that everything's so hot again.
That's right.
New York with this Hip Hop Museum, the Universal Hip Hop Museum, from Frankie Lyman, Little Anthony Imperial out of Brooklyn, you know what I'm saying, to today with Rakim and Big Daddy Kane's and all of the hip hop world, which we call it P-Funk, second generation. We feel like funk is the DNA in hip hop with all the sampling. So we feel akin to that, just like it's part of the funk. And we've always done that, been there to like help. Even Africa Bambaataa was one of the first ones we knew of.
That's right.
His name is on one of our albums, the album Uncle Jam's Army with Knee Deep on it. His name is the first name on the album because we gave credit to all our fan clubs in each city that we couldn't send them something. We put their name on the back of that album, every city. So we've been down with hip hop since it first started. We didn't want to be on the K-Tel packages. We wanted to be on the new thing, which was hip hop sampling. And like I said, funk was the DNA. So we felt akin to that and been that way ever since. Right up until a couple of years ago, I did a thing with Kendrick Lamar, who I feel like is the foundation of this generation. He's like our, back in those days, Smokey Robinsons and Bob Dylan and all those poets and those artists. I feel like Kendrick Lamar was that for this generation and a lot of other ones. I mean, I can't go into tell you all the ones I respect and like, but we try to stay real close to that concept. And coming out of New York, hip hop around the world, around the planet, lived up to what we thought it was going to be in the first place. So I'm glad to be here and be a part of this, this Universal Museum, because it's going to be here from now on. Our evolution says that hip hop is going to be the music going into the 21st century off planet. You see Elon Musk,
That's right.
He got the funk.
Yeah, but you were way ahead of him. You were in space.
Oh no, I gave him the road. I gave him the roadmap. Just told him where he's going.
Yeah.
So we gonna have some fun in the next few years. And glad to be here. Glad to be a part of this. Matter of fact, we need to do some funk ourselves.
Yes, you ready?
Can we get the first family up here?
We need our backup singers though.
Yeah, we need some backup singers, y'all.
Let's make sure.
We need y'all to help us sing out there too.
Now remember, one city.
Yeah, right.
One
Thanks.
city. Well, yeah.
Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. One city under a groove, getting down just for the funk of it. One city and we're on the move, nothing can stop us now. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. One city under a groove, getting down just for the funk of it. One city and we're on the move, nothing can stop us now.
Now, beautiful. By the way, backup singers, you did good.
Thank you.
You did good. Now, I want you to do one more thing for us, just you, George.
Here's my chance to dance my way out of our constriction. Gonna be freaking up and down Hang-Up's alleyway. With the groove I only got, we shall all be moved. Ready or not, here we come, getting down on the one which we believe in.
Here's our chance to dance our way out of our constriction. That you wrote that decades ago, but doesn't that sound like this exact
You need
moment?
to be able to dance. Any problem you have, any situation, there's a rhythm that can get you up out of it. You can dance underwater and not get wet even.
You said it all.
One day.
You said it all. Now, everyone, we got a special guest who's remote, who wants to speak about George Clinton, because a lot of us, this is very, very special. And he is a super funkadelic fan, the borough president of Queens. Donovan Richards, are you out there?
I'm out here. How you doing, Mr. Mayor?
We're having more fun than you.
Oh man, that was a sneak peek, and I think it's your birthday tomorrow too, right, George? You
Oh,
turned
no,
like 25.
A few weeks ago, right?
A couple of weeks ago,
A few weeks
I turned
ago, got
80.
it.
Turned 80
Oh.
teen.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm looking
80
forward.
teen. Did you hear that? 80 teen. That's a new one. 80 teen.
Wow. I'm looking forward to hearing Atomic Dog. And for those who don't know about Atomic Dog, if you're a hip hop fan, you know Snoop Doggy Dogg sort of took a little of
Sample.
that
Sample.
when he did.
We
Snoop
call it
Doggy
samples,
Dogg. But
Donovan.
we're going to stay on the East Coast today, and we're going to stay in Queens. But I am so excited, Mr. Mayor, about the homecoming concert coming up this week, and I look forward to seeing all of our Queens folks out there. We're going to have a stellar lineup: George Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars. Then, we're going to take it to Queensbridge for a little bit, because meanwhile, back in Queens, the Realness and Foundation, If I Die, couldn't choose a better location, and that is none other than Mobb Deep is going to be in the house. We're going to have DJ Hurricane from my neighborhood, Hollis, Ralph McDaniels. Come on, music video box. I mean, who did not watch that coming up? Especially if you couldn't afford cable, you definitely was watching music video box. I used to hook the antenna up to hang up to the back of the television and watch that even on school nights. God willing, my parents didn't find out. And of course, Too Short and EPMD. We're really going to have a great time. And this is really about the Queens comeback story. It's been a really rough year, 18 months for Queens, over 8,000 residents lost to this pandemic. But one of the things that I'm most proud of, Mr. Mayor, is Queens hitting the million mark, the first county in the state to hit 1 million vaccines. But we still have a lot of work to do. 63% of New Yorkers, as you alluded to, are vaccinated in Queens. Southeast Queens, we're still lagging behind. In Far Rock, we're somewhere around 41%. And I just have to say this, Mr. Mayor, this is not about exploitation or experimentation. I know there's a real history with that in the African American community, Black community specifically. But we need to take this seriously. And I want to be a little real on this, because we have some street doctors out there who think VIX is a solution to this, who have PhDs, which I call player-hated degrees, when it comes to this vaccine. And we really need them to stop spreading this misinformation in our communities. This is about safety. This is about ensuring that our economy could bounce back. This is about ensuring our children could go back to school without wearing masks eventually. And if you're a parent like me, Mr. Mayor, you know D3, I don't want to be on remote learning again. I want him to have the real experience in public school across the city. So we need to really make sure we're getting out there and spreading this information. And if you did get a vaccine, please use your social media to promote, I got a vaccine, I'm okay. I didn't lose my left ear or my right ear. I still could walk. I still could talk. And we need to make sure we're getting that information out. And I just want to end in saying, Mr. Mayor, thank you to your staff, Dr. Chosky, Dr. Easterling, who was out in Far Rockaway just a few weeks ago with me, and Eric Adams and a few of my colleagues, spreading the information about the vaccine. And let me also say this, we're going to do a week of action with your administration in September coming up in Queens with a lot of our colleagues out in Southeast Queens and community leaders. We need to really keep spreading this message that the vaccine is safe. And that's how we can continue to enjoy all of the things we love, which is music and of course, eating at our local restaurants. After you go to the concert, please visit a local business in Queens, and let's ensure we're supporting our small businesses as well. So I look forward to getting out there, Mr. Mayor. And I also just want to end in saying we missed you at the Dragon Boat Festival. It was the Queensborough President's Office repping Queens against your office, and unfortunately, you guys lost in my borough, Kilborough, the world's borough. And I just want to send that message here that don't compete and don't bet against Queens. We always win.
Okay, strong words. I understand we lost by a dragon's nose. So we'll be back next year.
It was more than a dragon's nose.
We're gonna watch the tape, but we're gonna be back next year to set it right. Borough President, thank you. I appreciate your strong message. And I think you'll agree with me. If you want evidence that it's time to get vaccinated, here, I'm sitting next to one of the greatest figures in American musical history. George Clinton is vaccinated. Okay.
2 times.
Okay.
Get
so,
your $100. Get
Okay.
your $100.
and you get $100. You could be like
Get
George
a shot in
Clinton.
your wallet. Queens, get the money. Go get vaccinated.
Go get vaccinated. But I'm saying you could be like George Clinton and get $100. I mean,
Exactly.
come on.
Well, I can't look that good.
Okay. Thank you, Borough President. George,
Yeah. See you tomorrow.
God bless you, brother.
Thank you, Your Honor.
What an
Good
honor.
to be here.
And it means so much to
And
us.
let's party tomorrow. We're going to tear the roof off.
I think that sounds right. We're going to.
We want the funk. Give up that funk. Y'all say it. We want the funk. Gotta have that. Thank you, sir.
Beautiful.
Thank you, sir.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank
here.
you. God bless you. All right. I'm going back to my official position over here. And you never know what's going to happen to City Hall. So, in addition to the amazing homecoming concerts you've heard about already, there is more to come homecoming week. We're building it out. We're doing even more. And good news, one of the most iconic cultural locations, one of the places that when you think of culture, when you think of music in New York City, and George Clinton just talked about it, you think about the Apollo Theater. And the Apollo Theater is back. The Apollo Theater is back. Shows beginning again. This is another great sign of our rebirth. And I'll tell you, people feel a reverence for the Apollo Theater. And it's going to be very, very important that people can go back and be part of this history again. So we're going to celebrate that the Apollo is back with a special event, the Uptown Saturday Night Extravaganza. It will be on Saturday, August 28th. Doors open at 6:30. And as always, proof of vaccination required. Information on the show will be available on the Apollo website tomorrow. Free tickets available starting Monday. Go to apollotheaters.org. And this show is going to be amazing. A 50th anniversary musical salute to the legendary Summer of Soul Music Festival in Harlem that people are giving so much respect to now. And this whole show will be a salute to that. There'll be also a tribute to R&B Hall of Famer Lloyd Price, led by Ray Chu, and the Harlem Music Festival All-Stars. So since it is the Apollo, there will be R&B, there will be jazz, there will be dance, there will be gospel, there will be Latin, and a taste of Broadway. So here's what we got. Forces of Nature Dance Company, the Nat Adderley Junior Jazz Quintet. We have Nona Hendrix, for all of you who know the history of music. Nona Hendrix, crucial figure. The amazing Bishop Hezekiah Walker will be there. Baba Don and the East Harlem Latin All-Stars, the Impact Repertory Theater from Broadway, performers from Lackawanna Blues and Ain't Too Proud, and the MCs, Imhotep, Gary Bird, and Debbie Jackson. Amazing lineup. The 28th. And we have with us now one of the performers, and as I said, she has done extraordinary things in her career. She is a musical innovator. She is one of the people, again, there are so many musical acts that owe their inspiration to the work that she did throughout her career. She is an art rock legend. She is a founding member with Patti LaBelle of the Bluebells. An amazing artist, and an honor to have with us Nona Hendrix.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
How
morning.
you feeling?
I am feeling fantastic. I am double vaccinated and going to get my third when it's time. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for bringing everybody together, for trying to get us organized again to reopen, and for the free homecoming event. I want to say thank you to all the New Yorkers for participating in Safety First, and also to thank Janelle Proco for reviving the old Grand Dame, the Apollo Theater, which was once my home, and I think always will be my home for somewhere to perform in New York. So I'm really happy to be a part of this.
I got to tell you, it's amazing how many artists are coming forward. And, you know,
Yes.
and it means so much to people. So I just want you to talk about what New York City means to you and what New York City coming back means to you personally.
Well, New York is my home and has been my home for over 40 years. And I'm from New Jersey, across the water, with Bruce and George, who used to be a barber and used to style my hair, which is why it looks the way it does. And sorry, I didn't get to tease him about that while he was there. He's my homie. But the Apollo has been a part of my life from the very beginning. And it was, in a sense, the center of New York for me. Harlem was the center of New York for me. And but I have played every borough in New York, and some that people may not even know about that are tucked away. New York, around the world, as George said, hip hop, all the music that's come out of here, jazz, the legends who played the Apollo, played New York, they travel the world, and New York is the place that people want to come to when they come to America. And it's the place that people came to when they came to America. So it's really the center, the heartbeat, in a sense, of the nation. I mean, I think it's more people know New York than know Washington, D.C. But anyway, that may have pushed it a little too far.
No, I think it was good. I like that.
Okay. But, it's a city of so many people, the energy, you have to, the song, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And that is true. And the Apollo is a testing ground, has been a proving ground for so many giants in music, from, Ella Fitzgerald to, all the way through to today. All the amateur hour shows that we watched while we were performing there, for the week-long performance, doing 2, 3, 4 shows a day, and then having the amazing band, in-house band. And it was like my high school. I went to high school, but the Apollo became my other high school and my college, and educated me in music, watching James Brown show after show after show, watching Jackie Wilson, watching all these amazing artists. I couldn't have gotten a better musical education.
Well, yeah, it worked. It worked. I'm sure your high school was good too, but I'm really glad you had another high school and college in the Apollo, and it helped make you the great, amazing performer and visionary you are. And I want to thank you. And we cannot wait to see you perform. Shalane and I will be there. Really excited to see it.
Good to see you again. I want to also thank Bosa Rivers and Lloyd Williams, who the Harlem Week godfathers, and just wanted to say that because they were instrumental in my being here.
They do amazing work. They do amazing work.
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
And Harlem Week is such an important part of this city and part of our comeback too. And listen, just thank you. Thank you for being another one of the people stepping forward to help bring New York City back.
Absolutely. It's my home.
God bless. Thank you. Now, everyone, the Apollo means so much to us. You heard Nona, a beautiful testimony to the meaning of the Apollo. I want you to hear from someone who's done so much to protect and preserve and build on the legacy of the Apollo. She's really a hero for her efforts because I can't imagine New York City without the Apollo, and it is now stronger than ever. She is the president and CEO of the Apollo Theater. Janelle Procope, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing?
Okay, great. I'm great. Let me just say, first of all, Parliament, Funkadelic, George Clinton, that's really the soundtrack to my life. All of those songs that you were singing in the beginning were bringing back lots of memories. So I'm so honored to be a part of this with George Clinton. And then Nona, oh my gosh, Nona Hendricks, my Shiro. I remember the last time that you and Patty were on the Apollo stage. You are amazing, amazing. And I just want to know when you're coming back after the concert that we have on the 28th. Love to have you on the stage. I want to say that the COVID pandemic was really an unprecedented challenge to cultural institutions everywhere, cultural institutions and the performing arts, but especially in New York City, because we really think of ourselves as the cultural capital of the nation. And I really want to thank you, Mayor de Blasio, for your leadership and also the hard work and sacrifice of thousands of dedicated healthcare workers. Without you guys, the theaters and the concerts would not be reopening. And so I'm just excited that we are, and we're doing it safely. So next week's Uptown Saturday Night in Harlem concert at the Apollo is coming right after, and I'm going to call it a once-in-generation homecoming concert series. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in Queens with George Clinton, but it signals to the world that our city is back, and we're back stronger than ever. And you know, the Apollo is not just a cultural and economic anchor for 125th Street. And may I just say that I think 125th Street is one of the greatest boulevards in the world. And I would argue that the Apollo, with its iconic blade sign and marquee, is one of the most important symbols of the city that never sleeps. So, you know, the Apollo has always, since opening its doors in 1934, been a beacon for the Harlem community. So we're just thrilled that after a long hiatus, we'll be opening our doors to the Harlem community and visitors from all over the city, the United States, and the world. So I'm excited.
Janelle, thank you. I can tell you're excited and you're ready. And the Apollo being back means New York City is back. And again, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your stewardship of that amazing institution. And really looking forward to this beautiful show. Thank you so much, Janelle.
Thank you.
So everyone, we're going to, amazing. I mean, just amazing stuff happening. Come back, coming strong. We've got lots of work to do. We got to keep building the vaccination effort. We have a lot of things to do to make this recovery work. But boy, are there a lot of people putting their shoulder into it and giving their heart and soul to it. It's really beautiful. Let me say two more things before we go to our indicators. First, I mentioned yesterday, very important, major gang takedown in Manhattan. This is part of the effort to strengthen public safety, continue what New York City has proven we can be, the safest big city in America. There's a major gang takedown, happened yesterday. Now we have the details. 13 members of the Chico gang charged with 21 shootings, 14 semi-automatic pistols seized, as well as 3 revolvers, and very tellingly, 5 of the guns purchased out of state in the state of Maine. Again, this challenge of guns coming into the city. We're working with the Biden administration. This is important that we deepen the federal efforts to stop the flow of guns into New York City. But in the meantime, NYPD is really speeding up these gang takedowns. We're getting a lot of great work from prosecutors, thanks to District Attorney Cy Vance and his team. The courts are coming back. We need them to come back full strength. I'm going to keep saying it. Really appreciate what's happened so far. We want the courts at 100% full strength. But what we're seeing is more and more gang takedowns, more and more people who have done violence getting off the street. The message to anyone who does violence or thinks about doing violence: you will be caught, you will be held accountable. It is happening every single day. And that word is spreading out there in the neighborhoods of the city, and that's going to help keep us safer. Lastly, before indicators, I want to see if we can pan out, my brother cameraman, pan out, please, to this beautiful, excellent mural behind me. And you see summer in New York City. And yes, you guessed it, it's the borough of Staten Island. Next week, City Hall in your borough in Staten Island. We're going to be out there, going all over Staten Island, talking about things that we're going to do to help bring back Staten Island strong, working with Borough President Jimmy Otto and other leaders of Staten Island. Really looking forward to it. We've had great City Hall in your borough experiences in Staten Island before. We're going to do it again. So an exciting week ahead. Looking forward to it, everyone. Now let's do indicators. Number one, we're doing doses. So again, big number, growing number, particularly with the youngest New Yorkers. And this is so much of the game plan. Reach those 12 to 17-year-olds, but also particularly with the mandates for restaurants, indoor entertainment, we're going to reach a lot of folks in their 20s, in their 30s who need to get vaccinated. So to date, 10,394,533 vaccinations. Number two, daily number of people admitted to New York City hospitals for suspected COVID-19. Today's report, 155 patients, 35.88% confirmed positivity, hospitalization rate 1.43 per 100,000, and new reported cases on a 7-day average. Today's report, 1,683 cases. Want to do a few words in Spanish on the vaccination effort, the fact that we've reached now 75% of New York City adults with at least one dose. Hemos logrado algo así milagroso. Millones y millones de neoyorquinos se han vacunado para protegernos unos a otros, para mantenernos a salvo. No hubiéramos logrado esto sin nuestros vacunadores, nuestros héroes de la salud. Para aquellos que aún no están vacunados, no hay mejor momento que ahora. With that, let's turn to our colleagues in the media. Please let me know the name and outlet of each journalist.
We'll now begin our Q&A. As a reminder, we're joined today by Dr. Dave Choksi, Commissioner of the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and Dr. Ted Long, the Executive Director of the New York City Test and Trace Corps. First, we have Juliet from 1010 Wins.
Oh, hey, good morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you? It sounds like you have a great musical time there today.
Yeah, you know, Juliet, I'm exploring new musical vistas over here. You know, anything's possible. So I had George Clinton coaching me. I mean, it was amazing before the press conference. George Clinton coaching me on which notes to hit. It's kind of like my mind has been blown many times over here. How are you doing today?
I'm great. So I wanted to tell you about my experience yesterday and asking if you're not planning to roll out perhaps specific protocols for businesses to check vaccination IDs. I went to a restaurant last night. Nothing was checked. So is it better for people to all be on the same page with a specific protocol, or are you just leaving it up to individual businesses to do what they have to do?
So, Juliet, first of all, this is obviously brand new, started on Tuesday. We expect it's going to take a little time for some places to get used to it or to figure out the best way. We can certainly, and I think it's a great suggestion, put a specific template out there for folks to use if that's helpful to them. But I think a lot of business owners are going to have their own approach. You know, I talk to people about just my own experience using the NYC COVID Safe app. You take a picture of your driver's license, you take a picture of your vaccine card, you just pull up the app, and when you go in any place, just show them one after another. It takes a few seconds. And, you know, that's really easy. Just like in a restaurant or bar, they check ID for someone getting a drink. But if it would be helpful to offer very specific models, I think that's a great idea, and we'll have our small business services folks do that. But in general, you know, of course, we know everyone's got different experiences, but the feedback we're generally getting is that a lot of folks, particularly in the restaurant industry, are saying this makes it straightforward. We want everyone to feel safe. We can say to our customers now, everyone's vaccinated. People can breathe a little easier. We can say to our employees, everyone's vaccinated. It's a safe environment. There's a lot of enthusiasm for that, but we will work with them to figure out the best way to make it work. Go ahead, Juliet.
Okay, maybe give that a shot, because it was a little disturbing, quite frankly, yesterday. I'm walking into a very busy restaurant and, you know, not checked. Anyway, different...
And Juliet, I'm sorry to interrupt, Juliet. It'd be great if you or any of your colleagues, if you have that experience, share it with our team here at City Hall. We obviously will not name names, but it's knowing the specific locations, that allows our team just to reach out to them and say, hey, let's work with you on this. Remember, there's no penalties until the week of September 13th. So knowing if a place isn't doing it yet allows us to say, hey, we got to reach out and have a conversation with them just to make sure it's working. But go ahead.
Okay, sure. I was wondering what other efforts you're making to get city employees vaccinated. Gothamist has a report that says as of Monday, 58% of city workers have received at least one dose. Is that satisfactory to you? And what else are you doing to encourage people to get that vaccine, because that's now a requirement to return to work?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to be satisfied until we reach a much higher level. But I do see constant progress. City workers, definitely, like everyone else, a lot of them are turning to this $100 incentive. And again, it's there for them and every one of their family members too, each one $100. The mandates we put in place, which we're phasing in for vaccination for city employees, are definitely having an impact. And then city employees, like everyone else, are out in communities and they want to participate. They want to go to restaurants. They want to go to movies. And that is also going to have an impact that there's a vaccine mandate. So I do believe this is going to move the needle substantially. But we're also saying to agencies, you've got to keep working at it. We're holding every agency head responsible for figuring out new approaches to reaching their employees and getting that number up. So there'll be a lot more on that. We intend to get that number up for sure.
Next, we have Andrew from NBC.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. For you and for your medical team, I'm wondering if there's any consistent guidance on the types of mask that younger children should be wearing going back to school. We're talking about under 12 kids that can't get vaccinated. Is there any thought to the Department of Education distributing KN95s or something that's more protective, given how contagious Delta is and how unprotected the youngest kids are?
Very good question. Appreciate that question, Andrew. I'll turn in a second to Dr. Choksi and Dr. Long. I'll just say what we found last year, I'm very, very pleased with this. You know, there were a lot of doubting Thomases about bringing school back. We brought school back. We had a very successful experience, very safe experience. But one of the most interesting parts was many people said, oh, kids are not going to be able to handle being masked. I felt just in my gut as a parent, they would deal with it. Kids are incredibly adaptable. And I think one of the great success stories of the last school year was kids wearing their masks very consistently right down to 3K and pre-K successfully. Your question obviously is what mask makes the most sense in this new environment with Delta? So I'm just, as I pass the doctor saying, the good news is kids wear masks really well. They're really comfortable with that. It's been a real good thing. Dr. Choksi and Dr. Long, what do you advise to parents as the right mask for this moment?
Thank you, sir, and thanks, Andrew, for this important question. Our mask guidance in general also does apply to younger children in that the most important things are to have a snug fit of the mask, as well as to use layers where possible. Some masks have layers themselves. Otherwise, using multiple masks, 2 masks can also provide some layering too. Both Dr. Long and I are fathers of younger children, so what I would add to that is that comfort is particularly important for younger children. Having a mask that a child will wear consistently and properly is also important. And so sometimes it takes trying a few different options to figure out what's best, for your particular child. With respect to the higher grade masks, these are the KN95 or KF94 masks. I do advise that parents look at them because they do offer additional protection, but there may be a trade-off between comfort and the protection that a mask like that can offer. So I think in some cases that will work for a particular child, but again, we have to focus on the big picture, which is we want people to wear masks that work for them, that are snug, and that have layers.
So just picking up on that before Dr. Long, Dave, I'm picking up from one of your great quotes about the best vaccine is the one you can get now. I hear you saying to parents, the best mask for your child is the one your child will wear consistently and comfortably. Would you agree with that?
Thank you, sir. Yes, that's well summarized. That's the most important thing because we want them to wear masks consistently throughout the school day.
Perfect. Go ahead, Dr. Long.
Yes, well, sir, actually, you stole my quote. I was going to give that exact quote and attribute it to Dr. Choksi. The best mask is the one your child will wear. What I would add on is that our real world experience in New York City, which includes how our students have worn masks in the period that we studied this, which was the first half of last year, we published this in the journal Pediatrics. We basically found that if you're a student or a teacher in remote learning, you had the same risk, if not higher risk, of contracting COVID than if you were a student or teacher in the school setting because of all of the precautions, including, to your point, Andrew, how children were consistently wearing masks in our schools. It made them safe and potentially safer than even if they were in remote learning. So we have a strong real world basis to show that how safe our schools have been.
Excellent. Thank you. Go ahead, Andrew.
Also, given that you were successful at using your pulpit, your national TV appearances, your daily briefings to give the city the freedom to vaccinate months ago, back when it was limited to Category 1A and Category 1B, and you were very successful at moving the ball there. Why have you not been more emphatic in trying to get national attention to making the vaccine available to kids ages 5 to 11? Isn't that, some scientists would argue, even more critical than what we now have, which is a booster shot available to people who've gotten 2 shots already?
Well, I appreciate the way you invoked history, and I say it, with humility. I do think a lot of things we've done here in New York City have helped really move things. And whether it was the Freedom to Vaccinate effort or more recently what we've done with our vaccine mandates and indoor dining and public employees and the $100 incentive. So I do feel we should always be looking for the next place to push. To the question, it's a very good one. What can we do to get those 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated? I think the Biden administration has been very focused on continuing to move things rapidly. I don't sense any delay or anything that they're missing. But I think you're making a great point. We need it, and we need it quickly. And I'm going to take that point and go check again on what's happening and see if we need to do some very special push there. We need to reach everyone with vaccination. And we have found the vaccination effort amazingly successful for this nation. So let's get to those 5 to 11-year-olds. Dr. Choksi, Dr. Long, you have any update you can offer on what that timeline looks like right now?
Yes, thank you, sir. What we know is that the studies are underway. Both of the major mRNA vaccine manufacturers, that's Pfizer and Moderna, are studying their vaccines in 5 to 11-year-olds. It is important, of course, to allow those studies to proceed so that we do ensure that when we administer the vaccines, they are just as safe and effective in that age group as they are for all other ages that have already been authorized. Our understanding is that Pfizer is likely to be the first to submit to the FDA for 5 to 11-year-olds, and that is likely to happen sometime in September. And then I agree with the mayor's point, which is we need expeditious review and vetting of that data to get to authorization so that we can actually administer the vaccines. But the bottom line is that we have to let the science proceed. We think that the first checkpoint will be sometime in September to understand what the data shows. And then it's likely to be later in this year, if I had to estimate, perhaps sometime November or December before the FDA were to authorize the vaccines for use.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Next, we have Henry from Bloomberg.
Well, Mr. Mayor, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Henry. How you been?
I'm very good, thank you. You've been asked this question before, but as the school approaches, question becomes more acute and more parents are asking for a remote option, not just for immunocompromised kids, but for kids who inevitably will be quarantined as case numbers go up. And then there's just this general feeling among parents that their schools may be too overcrowded to conduct social distancing the way it was practiced when there were very few kids attending school. So in light of this, and in light of the fact that several people in the school bureaucracy, if you will, parents groups, are calling for a remote option, don't you think it may be time to plan a centralized plan for a remote curriculum?
Thank you for the question. I know it's an honest question. No, we've had this conversation constantly. Look, again, my kids, pre-K to 12th grade, were in New York City public schools. I have spent my whole career working with New York City public schools. I feel very, very deeply the life of our public schools. I have talked to thousands and thousands and thousands of parents over the years. And I understand health and safety is number one concern to parents. I want you to remember what Ted Long said a moment ago. We found that our kids were safest in school. We had gold standard of health and safety measures. It worked unbelievably well. It is proven. It is documented. Dr. Varma and Dr. Long put out a paper, Dr. Long can speak about on this, to show just how extraordinary the effort was. Our kids are going to come back. We're going to follow the CDC guidance, the state education department guidance. We're going to keep kids safe. And I am absolutely convinced that with all the health and safety measures put in place and a lot more vaccination that's going to happen between now and the opening day of school with kids and with adults in the school system, this is going to be the place that kids need to be. It's also the place they need to be for a whole lot of other reasons, including other health, physical health and mental health reasons. So we have one plan. Dr. Long, could you speak to, again, I think I'm remembering my facts right, the study that you participated in and what it told us?
Yes. So this is a study in Henry. I'd be happy to send it to you. It was published in the journal Pediatrics, which is one of the leading pediatrics journals by its name, of course. This was a study where we looked at transmission either in our schools for students and teachers and outside of our schools among students and teachers in remote learning. What we found is that students and teachers in remote learning had the same risk of contracting COVID, if not a higher risk, than students and teachers that were in our schools. For us, the conclusion there is that, and this was all pre-vaccine, mind you, so we did not have the benefit of the vaccine coverage when we did this study. So the measures that we had at that time, like mask usage, like Dr. Choksi said, and like all of the other ventilation changes that we had made, conferred strong protection against transmission of COVID in our schools. The result we found has been replicated since and similarly found in other studies. One other one I'll quickly highlight is published in one of the CDC, it's called MMR, found that cases that were thought to be linked in a school when they were genotyped actually were different genotypes of the virus, meaning cases that were even thought to be transmitted in those schools at that time were actually contracted from the community because there were different strains of the virus. All to say that we believe our schools are safe and that we have the evidence in this article and other articles, which I'd be happy to send you as well to support.
Thank you. Go ahead, Henry.
Thanks. I'm familiar with Dr. Long's excellent review there, his work there, but today it's a different story. That was pre-vaccine, it was also pre-Delta. And my question really is, what are you going to do when kids are quarantined? What are they going to do? How are they going to continue their studies?
Good question, and what I'd say is, you're right to say the study was pre-vaccine, pre-Delta. I just want to offer one key point before answering your other question. You know, the number of people vaccinated in this city changes the situation, even with the challenge of Delta. I mean, you can just see it out there. I mean, when we got 5.2 million people with at least one dose. That changes the playing field entirely in the city. So Delta is a real challenge, but the reason you see the life of New York City moving so effectively right now is because of vaccination. Vaccination still overcomes Delta and the worst impacts of Delta. So I do say, you're right to say it's a different playing field, but I'd say I think that's very clear that the positive difference that so many people are vaccinated, more getting vaccinated every day, outweighs the negative. So vis-a-vis a kid who is quarantined, remember, first of all, if you, and I'll start and then Dr. Choksi, Dr. Long can add or clarify, if you're a child who is vaccinated in that 12-year-old and up group, or an adult in the school system vaccinated, and there is some evidence of COVID in the school, unless you are symptomatic, you're continuing to be in school. You're vaccinated, you are safe. If you're not symptomatic, you're in school. So you're going to see a lot fewer people going home for those quarantines. Among those who do go home for quarantine, it's now 7 days. It's not a long time in the context of the whole school year. And we want everyone to be safe. We want everyone to have the information they need. But that quarantine period is very brief. We will be talking in the coming days about exactly how there'll be education for those kids during that time. But it is a very temporary kind of, it's like, you know, when we're helping kids for a very temporary period of time, keep continuity. But overwhelmingly, we're going to see kids in school getting educated the way that actually works in person. Dr. Choksi or Dr. Long, just speaking about, again, the difference this time, if kids or adults are vaccinated, that they will not be leaving school if they're not symptomatic. Could you just amplify that?
Thank you, sir. And you captured it well. What I would just add is that this shows not just the individual benefits of vaccination, but also some of the ripple effects that vaccination has for the school community, meaning that vaccination affords protection for the student or the staff member who gets it, but also helps to prevent some of the cascading effects, whether it's avoiding unnecessary quarantines and being able to stay for in-person learning, or creating a protective shell, really, by high levels of vaccination in the school community, particularly for the younger children who cannot yet get vaccinated, as we spoke about earlier. So it's all to say that vaccination works both at the individual level as well as at the population level to help keep our schools safer.
Thank you. Dr. Long, anything to add?
Just a quick point. Dr. Choksi hit all the main points, but per CDC, if you're vaccinated, you don't need to quarantine, even if you get tested on between days 3 and 5. So if you're a student and you're a close contact or in a classroom and you're vaccinated, you can stay in school. The schools will now stay open because of the vaccine, which has a huge benefit to both the individuals that stay in school, but also to keeping our schools open into our city, as Dr. Choksi said.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kristen from the Staten Island Advance.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. How are you today?
I am doing well, Kristen. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, I also was at the concert on Tuesday night. Really great time.
A lot for Staten Island to be proud of that night. The amazing talent that came out of Staten Island on display all in one place. That was pretty cool.
It was. Did you ever get your official Wu-Tang name, or are they still working that out?
Breaking news. King Blasio. Breaking news. Is it Z?
Raekwon has confirmed.
Raekwon, we have breaking news. Bill Neidhart is confirming now. Wait a minute, Kristen. Breaking news. King.
Blasio.
How are we spelling it?
B-L-A-S-I. That's according to Raekwon.
B-L-A-S-I. Really?
I cannot
Okay.
argue with
Raekwon. No one argues with Raekwon. We respect his greatness. King
We do.
Blasio. B-L-A-S-I. Fascinating.
Okay.
Okay, there it is. It's formal.
All right. I appreciate that very important update.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's literally breaking. I didn't know it till now, Kristen. So you have achieved the ultimate in breaking news. I didn't know it either. Okay.
So I spoke with a lot of Staten Islanders who told me that they wished to use the state's Excelsior Pass Plus because it requires that two-factor authentication, verifies the person's vaccination status, with the immunization databases, which is something that the city's app does not do. There have been, from what I'm hearing, widespread issues with people who are vaccinated at city-run sites and some other sites getting their information verified on the state's app for whatever reason. Is there any plan to update the city's app that would use a two-factor authentication to verify somebody's vaccination status with official records instead of how it is now, which is just a photo, really?
Well, look, we made a decision to do something different, and with absolute respect for the Excelsior Pass, that was a great tool. We wanted a different kind of tool. We wanted something very simple. We wanted something that for those concerned about anything that connected to the internet, this was not that. This is something self-contained, if you will. So the goal here was to say, well, that's there if you prefer that approach, the state approach. That's great. That works. With restaurants, bars, everyone honored that. Ours is very simple. And again, reminding people, I'm going to believe the vast majority of human beings do things the right way. And if anyone is tempted to use a fraudulent vaccination card, that's a real problem because that's actually a major crime that can literally lead to prison time. So I think people are going to increasingly understand, don't mess around with that. But if you have to show some kind of proof of vaccination and have an ID that matches it, we feel good that that's a good, strong standard, and our app allows people to show that. But look, again, if someone prefers the Excelsior approach, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's there. It's there for folks to use. Go ahead, Kristen.
Great, thank you. And I've been reporting on a towing company, Runway Towing, based out of Queens, that has been accused in a class action lawsuit of overcharging New Yorkers for a variety of services, tows, gas, flat tires, things of that nature. Runway Towing has held the exclusive contract to tow from the Staten Island Expressway and some other city highways as part of the arterial program that's overseen by the police department. Despite the lawsuit that's ongoing and their rejection of their license renewal by the city, they are still exclusively towing on these roads. Now, last week, their license expired, but they are able to still tow through a temporary operating letter while the appeal of their license denial is in process. Now, the police department has deferred all questions to DCWP, but I just wanted to get your take on how the system is run with the NYPD, selecting only one towing business to service highways across the city, and the decision to continue using them after their license renewal was rejected due to illegal overcharging.
I'm really glad you are raising this. Kristen, you're not going to be shocked that this is an area I don't know a lot of the specifics of, but I will get educated on it now based on your question. I'm concerned. Look, if a company's not doing right by the people, then they shouldn't be able to do business with the city of New York. And we have lots of examples of that. Over the last 8 years, we have many, many times disqualified companies that were doing the wrong thing or punished them further. So I need to get all the facts together. I guarantee you we'll do that and give you an update. But if it's a company that should not be doing business with us anymore, or a company that's abusing the people of this city, then we will cut them off if that's the right thing to do.
Next, we have Steve from WCBS 880.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, good morning. I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say we're looking forward to what's next in your a cappella career.
Yeah, Steve, thank you for noticing. Offers are pouring in, major labels, but I'm not authorized to make any specific announcements at this point in time.
I understand. There's a lot that still needs to happen here. I wanted to circle back on schools real quick. I think the one kind of variable that hasn't been talked about as much that parents are especially worried about, when we talk about the track record of success that we had last year in New York City schools, but that was with much smaller fraction of students than what we'd see with everyone back in person this year. So where do we get that level of confidence this year that when we have 100% of students back instead of 15, 20%, what it was last year, that we will still see that same level of success and not have too many health hazards here?
Excellent question, very big question. I'm going to take a moment to frame it, and Dr. Choksi, Dr. Long, I really appreciate it because you're kind of getting to the heart of the matter here. Really want to emphasize, even though you could say, oh, there's more kids this year, fewer kids last year, we did not have vaccination. So Delta, I take Delta really, really seriously. But let me tell you, old-fashioned COVID versus no vaccination was really daunting. But we believed, based on a lot of research of what was happening around the world, that if we layered all the health and safety approaches, if we had a gold standard, it would work, even without vaccination, and it did. And 200,000 kids is a lot of kids by any measure. Remember that as we kept learning more and more about COVID, there were a lot of factors. So there's definitely consideration about distance, but ventilation, masks. But now the game's gotten entirely changed by vaccination. So the doctors can speak to this, give you the best perspective. But what I would say is, if you have vaccination on this high level, that transcends all other considerations. I am obsessed with vaccination and proud to be. It is the X factor. 5.2 million New Yorkers have gotten at least one dose. We're about a month out from school. 300,000 kids in that 12 to 17 range already have gotten at least one dose. And we have a huge push on over these next weeks to get kids vaccinated. I know parents will respond. I think the bottom line is this: having this high a level of vaccination in our schools and all the other elements of the gold standard of health and safety, we know we can keep our kids safe, and we know it is going to be safer for many of them than being out other places, as Dr. Long said. It's based on a lot of research, a lot of history. It's also based on the federal guidance. Our federal government has said resoundingly clearly, our kids need to be back in school for many reasons. And they've issued the guidance, and we're following that guidance. Dr. Choksi, then Dr. Long.
Thank you, sir. I agree with your bottom line. I'll just add 3 points briefly. The first is to pick up on the emphasis on vaccination. This is why we are so strongly urging parents, families, students to get vaccinated ahead of the first day of school. This is our Vax to School campaign, which is boots on the ground, engagement, making sure that all access barriers are lowered as much as possible, using incentives, as the mayor announced today, with respect to partnering with PTAs as well. And that's all focused around the goal of ensuring maximal levels of vaccination ahead of the first day of school. I'll also add that the COVID safe requirement that the mayor has announced applies to school staff, and that's an important part of ensuring maximal protection through vaccination. The second point is what we have learned from our experience last year is that layered approach to prevention that the mayor has spoken about. Ventilation, masks, distancing, vaccination, testing, all of them work together, and they have a compound effect when we partner them in that way. Particularly with testing, it gives us visibility into what's happening with respect to the spread of COVID in our communities and our schools, and that will be the way that we can know that our schools are remaining safe over the coming months. And then the final point is just to emphasize, again, as a doctor, this is about keeping schools safe so that we can bring children back for in-person learning, which is fundamental not just to their social development, their educational development, but for their long-term health, by which I mean both their physical and mental health. So this charge that the mayor has given us to keep schools safe is in pursuit of that very worthy mission. Thank you.
Amen. Dr. Long, anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to quickly emphasize the first point that Dr. Choksi said, which is that we know from this last year that our layered approach for health and safety can and did work. What's different now is that we have the opportunity now to get more and more people vaccinated to keep our schools and our city more and more safe. For example, we're having mobile vaccine units go to malls for back to school sales, multiple malls in every single borough. We're going to preconditioning training, bringing vaccines there right to you if you're a student that's going to be going through preconditioning training. And of course, we have our at-home vaccination program, nyc.gov/home vaccine. The most we can do right now is to get as many students and teachers vaccinated as possible. It's the most powerful tool we didn't have before. We have it now. Let's use it.
Amen. Go ahead, Steve.
I'd appreciate that very much. I wanted to switch topics here, ask a question on behalf of my colleague Marla Diamond. She's working on a story about the Washington Heights Armory, which of course would classify as an indoor fitness facility under the key to NYC, and everyone going in there would have to show proof of vaccination. But it also hosts high school athletics, and it's telling student track and field athletes they'll have to be vaccinated if they want to compete once the season starts in October. I know yesterday you said there wouldn't be any kind of mandate for students. So it kind of sits at this intersection of two conflicting policies here. So what could be the outcome here? You know, if students want to compete at the Washington Heights Armory, but they won't be let in if they aren't vaccinated.
Yeah, Steve, really fair question, important question. First of all, as we say in baseball, tie goes to the runner. These rules related to facilities stand for everyone, all ages. We're keeping consistent with that. So the Armory is right to say, regardless, that folks who are going to go there have to be vaccinated. Also, the question I got yesterday was about schools, was about education. And I said, I don't anticipate a vaccination requirement for kids to go to school. We're looking at, obviously, other types of activities, athletics and other types of activities. That's its own world. It always has been in the eyes of the healthcare leadership locally and nationally. So we'll be speaking more to school athletics separately. But yes, I think the Armory is doing that the right way.
Next, we have Aaron from Politico.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, Aaron. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I was wondering, the state and the CDC yesterday put out kind of the first data on breakthrough infections and the effectiveness of the vaccine, since Delta, essentially showing that it's down to about 80% for preventing infections, still much higher, I think around 95 for hospitalizations. Just wondering, do you have any city-specific data on, the number of breakthrough infections, the effectiveness rate, current for the vaccine, and does any of this information, change the guidance, the advice you're giving people on sort of, how they should be conducting themselves in general when they're vaccinated?
Yeah, I appreciate the question a lot because we are constantly watching any new development. That's the history of COVID now for a year and a half. Things constantly evolving, having to watch new data and new science. As I turn to the doctors, I'd say what rings through to me is, I'm a very practical guy. I want people to be alive. I want them to avoid the worst impacts of COVID. God forbid anyone even contracts COVID. The number one concern is making sure they come through it okay. If you're vaccinated, overwhelmingly, you're going to come through it. If you're not vaccinated, you could be in danger. That rings true even with any new developments we're seeing with breakthrough cases. But in terms of specific numbers, Dr. Choksi, Dr. Long, do we have any specific numbers we can share?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Aaron, the study that you cited that came out from the New York State Department of Health yesterday, that did include New York City data from our citywide immunization registry. So, about half of the of all of the data points that were encompassed in that study are from New York City. The major takeaway from that, as well as other studies released by the CDC yesterday in their announcement, all point to what the mayor just said. And it's important for us not to miss the forest for the trees on this. Overwhelmingly, the vaccines will keep you alive and out of the hospital. Data from that the New York State study showed that the vaccines remain over 90% effective at preventing hospitalization. That's why we remain laser focused on vaccination. We'll continue to track breakthrough cases, but very importantly, we have to distinguish breakthrough infections, many of which are mild or asymptomatic, from breakthrough disease, which are the outcomes that we really aim to prevent.
Thank you, Dr. Long. Anything to add?
Nothing to add. Dr. Choksi has always covered everything.
Covered it all. Thank you. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, thanks. And then, separately, I know you've expressed some optimism about the new governor being sane and normal. But I'm just wondering, are there any specific policy priorities that you had not been able to do, given the situation in Albany previously and the previous governor that you think can get done now or will be after next Tuesday?
Yeah. Aaron, I mean, look, first of all, there's some great things I think we can do. If the legislature comes back, we're not sure what their timeline is, but it'll, I think, be a whole new day in terms of having just an honest, substantive conversation about what's going to help New Yorkers as opposed to all the games that we saw with the previous governor. Right now, we have pieces of legislation that passed the legislature, like the vouchers bill related to getting homeless folks to affordable housing. We had no idea what the outgoing governor was going to do with that. It's a really important piece of legislation. The city has acted, the state legislature has acted. Here's an example of something we could do constructively together, city and state all on the same page. This is the kind of thing I'm hopeful that we can do with soon-to-be Governor Hochul. I think there's a lot of areas where we'll be able to work together in a new way. So, good question. We'll be saying a lot more as different pieces emerge. But I absolutely am feeling urgency to look at the things that were never possible before and now see if we can find that common ground and move forward over these next few months. And I think the incoming governor is open to that.
Next, we have Alice from CBS TV.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Okay, so there are lots of homecoming events celebrating progress being announced for those who are vaccinated to attend, but several parades were just canceled. New Jersey canceled its marathon this fall. Are there any other major events, like, for example, the New York City Marathon, thinking of canceling that you're aware of?
What I'm hearing is that most of the big events had previously modified their approach, either canceling or going to a much smaller format. I'll get you the latest update. Our team will get you the update on the marathon. But what I'm seeing is actually, because again, all the history we went through here, I think the vast majority of organizations had already made major adjustments for 2021. And we're looking forward to coming back full strength in 2022. Obviously, there's some big events at the end of the year that are iconic and crucial that we really hope we'll be in a good position for. But that's going to be based on, the data and the science and having lots and lots more vaccination. So these next months are crucial. We have a real opportunity to overcome and push back Delta. We can really maximize vaccination in these next months. Go ahead.
And my other question was really a follow-up to Juliet's earlier question about the vaccine cards. Will there be any training for businesses on how to spot a fake vaccine card? We were talking with businesses on the Upper West Side the other night, and kind of like what you were saying, they're saying it's basically just an honor system right now. They're not even sure how to spot a fake amongst people showing cards.
We definitely will provide training, and again, I appreciate questions like this because they are really helpful to say, okay, let's make it really clear. Let's show a template. Let's show it to you guys as well, so everyone sees the ways to do it. But definitely a lot of dialogue with restaurants, bars, theaters, etc. What I'd say is, I really believe the vast majority of people are on the level, and we're also getting the word out really clearly. There could be major penalties for a fraudulent vaccination card. And remember, if you're showing it to someone, they are a witness, right? So if you think, oh, I'm going to be cute and take a vaccination card and alter it, and then you go and you get in someplace, you've just shown that you did an illegal act with serious, serious penalties. So my message to everyone is don't even think about that. just go get vaccinated. It takes a few minutes. You get the card for the first dose, and you are legal, you're safe, and move forward. So I think the vast majority of people are going to do this the right way, but we absolutely owe it to all of these businesses to show them, just basic ways to make sure that they're confirming an actual card. And by the way, if they don't feel comfortable in any situation, they can always say to someone, that doesn't look like proof to us. We will train them in those situations, but I think the vast majority of people are going to do this the right way.
Our last question for today goes to Dana from the New York Times.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. About vaccinations, given that only 58% of city workers have gotten at least one dose, what's preventing you from outright mandating the vaccine, given that you're not running for re-election? Like, why not just go there? And relatedly, what percentage of New Yorkers are fully vaccinated, not just partially?
Yeah, Dana, on the second part, 4.7 million fully vaccinated, 5.2 million at least one dose. Again, we overwhelmingly are seeing that folks who get a first dose get the second dose. About 95% do that. So we're quite confident these numbers will keep growing apace. And as I said, almost 300,000 in just the 12 to 17 group. We're looking at all options is the answer, Dana. I mean, I know you are a student of politics, and I don't mind you framing it from the political perspective, but to say the least, what I'm trying to do, what our health leadership is trying to do is make decisions, urgent decisions now. We know they're not always popular with everyone. We're doing what it takes to protect people. Some people don't like the vaccine mandate for public employees that we have now. Some people don't like the mandate to make sure that our restaurants and bars and indoor entertainment, fitness are safe, key to NYC. I am making those decisions because I think that's what's going to keep people safe. And I believe that's how we turn the city around, recover, move forward. So all options are on the table. I hear your question, and I say we are looking at every approach. We believe right now we have the right set of approaches for this moment, but I've used the analogy of climbing the ladder. I won't hesitate to take another step if and when I believe it's the right time to do it. Go ahead, Dana.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On another topic, as you probably saw, former Mayor Bloomberg's throwing a fundraiser for future Mayor Adams, or likely future Mayor Adams. What do you think about that? What's your reaction?
It's kind of classic. I mean, it's when there's a winner, people connect to the winner. I have a lot of faith that Eric Adams, who's a very experienced, worldly wise person, is going to know that a lot of folks are going to come forward to help him now that he's the winner. But if there's ever someone I've met who remembers where he came from and what he believes in, it's Eric. And so he'll have many new friends, but I think he will stay true to his values and to the changes that he believes we need in this city. And I'm certainly, looking forward to being supportive of him as he does that. I'm excited about what he will be doing going forward. And my job, of course, over the next 4.5 months is to keep bringing the city back strong and hand him that baton on January 1st and the city moving forward. So with that, I'll say to everyone, that's the mission for all of us. Keep bringing the city back. Vaccination is the key. And today you heard it. PTA members, that means you. Go get folks vaccinated. And the PTA will benefit as well. Everyone will benefit. Thank you, everybody.